A simple supply run for the hard-to-find meiloorun fruit takes a dangerous turn as Zeb and Ezra draw the attention of Imperials and steal a TIE fighter. It's time to revisit Star Wars Rebels Season 1, Episode 4, Fight or Flight.
This is Master Obi-Wan Kenobi. I regret to report that both our Jedi Order and the Republic have fallen, with the dark shadow of the Empire rising to take their place. This message is a warning and a reminder for any surviving Jedi. Trust in the Force. Do not return to the Temple. That time has passed, and our future is uncertain. We will each be challenged. Our trust, our faith, our friendships. But we must persevere, and in time, a new hope will emerge. May the Force be with you, always.
Well, welcome again to Episode 4 of Star Wars Rebels Revisited. I'll look back episode by episode at what I think you would agree with me, guys, is the absolute best Star Wars animated series of all time. It's the series that brought you guys into this fandom and has given me something to do with all my spare time with you guys. So, love that. Thank you guys for watching and tuning into this. We are at Episode 4, and so we're continuing on from what we talked about last week, and it ended with something really important. It ended with Ezra saving Zeb's life. And that is how episode 4 sort of opens up. We have Ezra sort of taking advantage of that. You know, we watch every year.
Wonderful Life. Yeah.
No, it was White Christmas. So we're sitting there, so we watch White Christmas every year for Christmas, obviously. We just got done doing that because it's January, let's see, this will be the last one. So we did the 3rd, the 10th, 17th. And now this would be like the 24th. Yeah, 24th, and this is airing. And so we're close to Christmas. We just got done watching White Christmas, and there's that sort of that guilt that the Danny Kaye character uses against Bing Crosby about how he saved his life, and he always pats his arm whenever he wants to get anything. This is the way that this episode opens with Ezra and Zeb. So let me read the synopsis, and then I'll get your initial thoughts on this, guys. Chopper ends up causing a fight between Ezra and Zeb. So Hera sends them out on a supply run together to keep them from bickering with each other, specifying that they do not return without a rare meiloorun fruit. Meiloorun? Meiloorun. Thank you, guys.
Putting the emphasis on the wrong syllable.
That's right. Meiloorun fruit. The two find that the market's sole supply of meilooruns has been purchased by the Empire. Of course, this
the Empires are evil.
Yeah,
they're stealing all the fruit.
Absolutely. Ezra's attempt to steal the fruit leads to an entanglement against the stormtroopers, forcing Zeb to hijack a TIE fighter for the two to escape in. En route to their rendezvous with the guest, the two find the ghost. I said guest.
You said guest. We're all a little bit.
We record these all at once, or we record a group of them at once, or a little tired.
Yeah, but anyway, we're not going to keep talking about that. Okay, so let's go back. Ezra's attempt to steal the fruit leads to an entanglement against the stormtroopers, forcing Zeb to hijack the TIE fighter for the two to escape in en route to their rendezvous with the ghost. The two find farmer Morad Sumar, a friend of Ezra's parents, and his family being arrested over a property dispute with the Empire. Using the TIE fighter to their advantage, Ezra and Zeb are able to rescue Sumar and retrieve the fruit. On their return to the ghost after supposedly crashing the fighter, Hera is pleased to see Ezra and Zeb are more friendly towards.
Is that like the new
That's right, I remember
Ezra, yeah.
They didn't actually crash it because doesn't Sabine paint it up?
Later on, we see it in an episode. I thought that. I was waiting for that to happen in this one.
Yeah.
So tell me, Samuel, we'll start with you today. What was your initial thoughts or your overall thoughts on this episode 4?
Seemed a bit more like a filler than anything. Every series has them, so you can't really complain. But it was cool to see the relationship beginning to blossom between Zeb and Ezra. So.
Yeah, a lot of fun with that. That's a big part of this storyline here. What about you, BB Nate?
I don't know. Do you think that this was like a bad filler, Sam?
No. I don't. When I say filler, I don't mean that it's bad. It's just it's not. It doesn't have a huge bearing on the overall story. It's more just there to fill the time slot, and not to say that they don't further parts of the story. They do, but it's not as influential as
Finding out that Kanan is a former Jedi.
Right.
Yeah.
It's not that.
For me, every time I think of Star Wars Rebels, I for some reason think of this episode. I don't know why. I just
Really?
do. Every time I think of it, I think of them trying to steal a meiloorun. It's just that's what I think of, and then Zeb stealing a TIE fighter. Every time I think of this episode, I'm like, dang, that was late in the series until we started watching it. I'm like, wait, this was like the 4th episode in the series, and I was happy about that because it's an episode that I really do enjoy.
Why do you enjoy this episode so much?
It's the kind of the bickering of Zeb and Ezra, and then at the end, my favorite part of the whole thing is when Zeb says, "You collect these," and hands him a TIE fighter pilot helmet, and he's like, "Well, I already have this one," and so like Zeb gets not offended, but like feels like he failed at something, which is not good for Zeb.
He just feels disappointed.
Feels disappointed, and then Ezra's like, "But this one's a nice one, and I can have Sabine paint it." And then the friendship starts to grow a lot in just that part, and I wouldn't say it was a filler. I said that with the last episode happening with the droids in distress, they needed that connection between Zeb and Ezra to grow a lot more.
And they needed something not depressing.
And they needed Zeb to have a good friend that he can hang out with, because they live in the same room, as we figured out.
Yeah, which is another part of this episode. It's sort of where we start seeing Zeb and we see Ezra as kind of like siblings, kind of like brothers.
Yeah,
they come at each other a lot. They bicker, they squabble, they play pranks on each other. You have Chopper playing a prank on both of them. You have, them fighting over who's going to carry what when they're on Lothal, and you have, I did all the work while you're out, and you can't even find a meiloorun. And then they find a meiloorun fruit, and Zeb's lost all the other supplies that they've gotten. Zeb and Ezra makes fun of him for that, and so it very much reminds me, no offense, guys, of the way that you guys act. Not that you don't like each other or even love each other, but at the same time, you guys, there's this brother rivalry, sibling rivalry thing in a positive manner. I see that between.
It's not a rivalry because I'm better than that.
Oh, jeez. All right.
That's the funniest joke I heard all day.
Yeah. Okay, so let's go back and let's talk about sort of our favorite moments. We sort of gave an overall opinion of this, but what specifically were some of our favorite moments from Fight or Flight, episode 4 of Star Wars Rebels? Samuel, I'll have you go first.
Yeah, mine was I'm forgetting. Can we redo this segment?
Yeah, we can redo it.
Yeah, I was like
Look at the
blanking. I couldn't remember what the.
Do you remember what it is now?
The first. No, I'm gonna get it. You remember? Oh yeah, I got it.
You got both of them?
I got both of them.
No, I read mine, so that's good.
5, 4, 3. Okay, so we talked about, generally speaking, what we liked about this episode, but let's dive in a little bit deeper, talk about some of our favorite specific moments in this. I'm going to have you go first. Samuel, what were a couple of your favorite moments from Fight or Flight?
Yeah, I mean, I loved the part every episode before every recording, we go through and we go to StarWars.com's top 10 for each episode. And one of the things they mentioned was the fact that Zeb was caught between a TIE fighter and stormtroopers and managed to escape with not only his life, but the TIE fighter as well. And not a lot of people could say they've done that. I mean, he literally took down the stormtroopers, got to the TIE fighter, threw the pilot out, and then started piloting the TIE fighter and shooting everything he could shoot. That's not an easy feat by any means.
No, we get to really see what Zeb's made of. Because in the last episode, like you said, BB Nate, when we had this confrontation between Kallus and Zeb, it threw Zeb off emotionally and physically. It sent him off balance. And so it was fun in this episode, like you said, Samuel, to sort of see Zeb be what Zeb can be, which is this warrior with that. So anything else?
Yeah, and I think you mentioned this a little bit, Nate, but it's the blossoming friendship between Ezra and Zeb. I'm having a tough time with names today. But you know, they really grow close over the series, but especially in this episode. And I like my favorite part, like you had mentioned, is when you know, Zeb's offering Ezra the helmet, and he's like, "Oh no, I've got that one." But that's a nice one. I'll take it. I really love that part. I mean, that part's always been like my favorite, one of my favorite things from the whole series.
Which is interesting because I hadn't even remembered that until we watched it again. So it's
So I love
you guys so much.
the blossoming friendship between those two.
It's cool. What about you, BB Nate? What were your favorite moments?
Well, both of mine are kind of like a lighthearted, funny version, but the first one was Sabine's inspiration for her art. Ezra goes up to her and is like, "Hey, if you ever need some inspiration for your art, I'm always here." And she's like, "I'll look for somewhere else." And then she sees the thing where Chopper makes the top bunk fall onto Zeb, where Ezra gets on top
Yeah,
of
the
it.
prank that Chopper's playing at the beginning that we talked
And
about.
so she paints that, and I just find that to be freaking. That is Sabine and.
Kind of a caricature, a version moment is what she paints.
Yes, that's what. Yes, so that is always marked in their room as kind of the first part of their. And this may be weird, but it's the first part of their friendship.
Okay.
Because that's how it starts, and that's how they get into that thing. And the other one was when you know, kind of like the whole Danny Kaye thing. Ezra keeps saying, "Hey, I saved your life. Do this for me."
Mm-hmm.
So Zeb is flying the TIE fighter sideways, which I didn't even know could really be done or be possible. But he starts flying it sideways and says, "Okay, if I save your life right now, we'll be even, right?" And he's like, Ezra's like, "Yeah, sure."
He's running
like
along.
he's running, and Zeb is like having so much fun during it, just laughing.
Yeah, that's a fun
and
segment.
it's a fun segment.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's fun when you talk about the Sabine part. I want to kind of backtrack on that for a second. With the Sabine and her art, this is a storyline that's going to play itself out throughout the entire series. Her art becomes more and more important. She changes up her art on her Mandalorian armor. She paints Ezra's helmets. She paints up art in her room. And then we see, going into Star Wars Resistance, we have this Tora Doza character, one of the ace pilots in Star Wars Resistance, which again, this isn't a show about Star Wars Resistance, but it's interesting to note that you have art in her room that looks like it's painted by Sabine.
So
And then you also have Sabine's character, or like her code name, because you have the Ghost, that's their ship. You have that secondary drone ship or a secondary ship that's attached to it called the Phantom. And then their call signs are Spectre 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, all that kind of thing. And Sabine's her call sign is Spectre 5, and she has a 5 on her shoulder. And we see Tora Doza, she has a 5 painted on her shoulder. And so there's some that speculate that there's a connection there between Sabine and Tora Doza. I don't know.
on Bucket's List, I think I'm maybe wrong on this, but I'm pretty sure they do confirm.
Bucket's List is sort of the Star Wars recap show of Star Wars Resistance, like Rebels Recon.
They do like an article version which doesn't give you everything, and then they do the video version which does. I'm pretty sure this is in the article version. They say that is actually Sabine's art.
Wow.
I'm not 100% sure. I may be wrong on this, but I'm pretty sure that they do say
We'll have to
that
check
looks
that
either
out.
a lot like Sabine's art or it is.
Well, they're not putting that on Bucket's List unless they want to put that out.
Right.
Yeah.
That's pretty interesting. A couple of my favorite moments. Obviously, it's the whole episode starts with Ezra unable to lift a simple cup or something. A bowl. I think it's what it was. A bowl using the Force. He's like trying really, really hard, and it's funny because then it sort of lifts, and he's surprised, and you look and it's actually Chopper's mechanical arm that's lifting it up, like, you know, underneath it, playing a trick on him. He can't do it. When he tries so hard to lift just a simple bowl, he can't lift it. But then when we get later on in the episode and they're fighting and they're running from the Empire and they're, you know, trying to steal the fruit and get the supplies and all this, there's moments of just pure instinct. And that's when Ezra's able to use the Force, you know, in an Obi-Wan moment, right? He's able to access the Force and use it out of instinct when he's not trying. It reminds me of Yoda on Dagobah with Luke, do or do not, there is no try. Whenever Ezra's trying really hard to use the Force, he struggles with it. But when he allows it to just happen instinctively, very positive things happen. That's one of the things I love about it. There was one other that I forgot what it was. yeah, I guess that'll do it for me. So yeah, let's continue on.
Great, just what I need. Zeb?
Zeb! Hey, Zeb! Let me in!
So now I'd be saving your life, right?
What? Yeah, sure! Yes! Whatever!
If I let you in, we're even!
Fine!
You have to say it!
Alright! We're even! Now let me in!
Don't grab me, kid. I'm
You don't
flying
know how!
here.
Let me! Turn the ship!
Let go.
Turn the ship!
I'm trying!
So the big moment, obviously, in this episode is not really about stealing fruit, or even stealing a TIE fighter. It's more about Ezra and Zeb sort of sealing their relationship, their friendship. And you talked a little bit about it, so I'll go over to Sam and let him talk a little bit more about it. It's this moment where Ezra's been, running on these rooftops, and he's running to escape from the Empire, and it goes back to my conversation about the Force and utilizing it by instinct. But then Zeb shows up with the TIE fighter. Talk about that sequence a little bit and why that's so important to the overall story of Star Wars Rebels.
Yeah, so he's flying along. Well, you guys saw the clip, but it's important because now he says they're eternally even or something like that. Meaning, I think it's less they're even and more they're going to have each other's backs from that point on. They're not going to worry about keeping score and whose turn it is, but they're going to just be like, all right, I'm going to make sure you're okay, and you're going to make sure I'm okay. And they do that throughout the whole series. They're a lot like brothers in the series. So I think that's really the impact later on is they've got each other's back. They don't have to keep score anymore. They're watching out for each other.
Yeah, that's really interesting. And that, as I'm thinking about the relationship between Zeb and Ezra, I can't help but see in my mind's eye the same relationship that Han and Luke have, sort of in the original trilogy, early on especially, because obviously we get to the Death Star, and in the Death Star Luke is using the Force by instinct. Remember, trust the Force. He keeps hearing Obi-Wan's voice. He turns off the targeting computer. Kind of plays into the same type of a thing we've been talking about with Ezra here. And he's getting ready to take the shot, and Vader's behind him, and he's chasing and he's attacking him in a TIE fighter. And Han swoops in and saves his life, right? Mm-hmm. And he basically says, "You owe me one." Later on, and then on the beginning of Episode 5, The Empire Strikes Back, Luke is lost. He's captured by the Wampa. Han goes out and saves him, and he says, "That's two you owe me, kid." Mm-hmm. Right? And then we get to the very end in Return of the Jedi. Obviously, after Han has been in Carbonite, and Luke and Leia and Chewie and Lando, they go and they rescue him from Jabba, and he basically says, "Now I owe you one, kid." It's like that's that even moment. It sort of feels like the same type of thing, doesn't it, BB?
It does. It really does. It's an interesting. The thing with Rebels is this connection with the whole original trilogy, and that's what I like about the series so much. They keep adding in all this original trilogy stuff, and I know it's set in between 3 and 4. I know that, but it's the friendships that grow in this series that it more mimics the original trilogy, and so that's what I like about this series a lot.
It does feel a lot like Star Wars.
It does. It feels like Star Wars.
Yeah. So the next episode is where things start to get a little bit hairy with Kanan. I can't wait to talk about that one on the next time we record. So.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, it's where we start Kanan starts to question his ability to train Ezra in the Force. So it's going to be a lot of fun with that. we want to thank you guys for taking some time to watch this or listen to it. And we are really excited about this. We love your feedback. Of course, a subscription on YouTube or a subscription on whatever podcast service that you listen to us on is always greatly appreciated. It helps us so much. Throwing up a comment, question, some constructive criticism, keep it on the light side for us, please. We want to be able to respond to those if you have any questions, especially as you kind of think ahead, maybe to the next 5 episodes, 5 through 8, 5, 6, 7, and 8. Think about those episodes. Throw up a comment with some of your thoughts on those episodes as well. We're going to interact with you guys in these comments and keep things going with that. We love this. We really hope that you would consider checking us out on our regular podcast as well, which comes out every single Monday. Unless you're a Patreon supporter, you get early access to this podcast, this YouTube show, as well as our regular podcast. If you subscribe, if you're a supporter on Patreon, you can always become a member of the Sticker of the Month Club. And our January sticker is Hope. You're going to see that on there. Love for you to check that out. If you want to be part of the T-shirt of the Month Club, you can do that. We also have, and there'll be links in the notes here for you to access some of our Star Wars Rebels Revisited memorabilia merchandise, as well as all of our Tatooine Sons Turbo Support stuff. Check out our website, TatooineSons.com, to learn more about Turbo Support, as well as on our Patreon page. Let's see, did I get everything? I covered it all. So I guess that's pretty much. Anything else you guys want to say?
May the Force be with you.
May the Force be with you.
May the Force be with you.